Today I'm going to talk about the relationship between data art and the vision of the public sphere. Our work involves a lot of programming and studies on data, so we're going to talk about elaborate from several points of view. It might have been a cliche to say that the internet has become the contemporary version of the public sphere, but I would like to say that we're not the only role players. It is a public sphere per se, but it's composed of not only human beings but also countless algorithms, or as we call them, the robots, which is crucial to any attempt to analyze or rethink the internet version of public sphere. I'm quoting Lev Manowich here, and you can just read through. And I would like to mention that we're not just interacting with interfaces, but we're also interacting with algorithms and databases as well. The first point I'm going to address is shared experience, how you perceive the world and how this process can be reflected in artworks. My friend Zhenhua had a very interesting discovery in Wikipedia that there is a location named Indian Square, but it's not in India, it's in New Jersey. It's worth thinking about how this crowdsourced information has become the new author, the new knowledge source, and how it has constructed a different kind of authenticity. Here's Wikipedia, and the picture is Indian Square. This a little bit horrifying picture is a visualization of the Wikipedia edits made by the IBM's Visual Communication Lab. The diagram shows how some editors produce very long and lasting content while others don't. With enough editors contributing to an article, in the end, almost every paragraph and every sentence will get modified. And this is a visualization of made by David McCandless, and it shows how editors fight for the definition of certain words, such as Jesus or cat. So you can see there's a little even political side of how people are treating this crowdsourced information entries. But who are doing these jobs? Here they are. Here are some top editors of the English Wikipedia. Our friends here, but none of them are human, they are algorithms. I'm sure many of us still remember Felix Baumgartner, who jumped from the edge of space in, I think, 2012. He was one of the highest supersonic skydivers. It was a worldwide moment and it was watched and commented in real time by countless people. I'm quoting Guardian's report on this event here. How many people have had the opportunity to see the curvature of the earth below and a completely black sky above? The event was broadcast via YouTube and had 38,384,313 viewers. It was record-breaking. I think one thing brought about by crowd-contributed information is not knowledge, but sensations, excitement, enthusiasm, or even rage, which could happen at public gatherings in history, but nowadays they are conducted in the form of YouTube clicks. We have these globalized sensations, which in a lot of cases wouldn't necessarily make sense if we put under the scope of one's personal daily life. We also see the virtual shared experiences extending into the physical real world. This is when the Boston Marathon bomb attack took place. Google launched a project on Google Drive, and it's called Google Person Finder, so allowing people to add information of the missing person or who have information about the missing people so they can share on Google Drive. And here is another example of how data and crowdsourced information constructs a layer of understanding of the physical space. The city dashboard developed by the University College in London. It aggregates simple spatial data for cities around the UK and displays the data on a dashboard and a map. So, how are artists responding to all these data-related situations that we mentioned before? This is a work produced by Keiichi Matsuda, who is an artist based in London. The work is based on the data of London City Dashboard, so the infrastructural data feeds and exchanges, including transportation updates, traffic webcams, and environmental datasets, are harvested by the programmers in real time and presented as a live patchwork of systems. Quoting the artist here, as machine languages and processes start to permeate the city, we must re-examine our urban landscape as a new and unexplored terrain. Here's one of my favorite works, actually, a great example of how the perception of public debate can be deconstructed and reconstructed in real time. Often when we listen to public speeches, the interpretation is a rather personal thing, I think, and the information flow is mostly one-directional, from the speaker to the audience. In this web app developed by Social Limited, it's called Reconstitution 2012. The presidential debate is analyzed in real time, so language is used by the candidates to generate a live graphical map of the events. Algorithms track the psychological states of candidates and compare them to the past candidates. The app allows the audience to get beyond sort of the punditry and discover the hidden meaning in the words chosen by the candidates. We often say that the media is the magic bullet. The media has this infiltrating power. But today, I think we have to re-examine this statement in a different scope. This is a project that Sita and I did when we were in Rotterdam. It's a project called Place Talk, so it's about conversation and places. The idea is to have a traveling physical box as a metaphor of a traveler who is tired of travel guides, websites, tired of TripAdvisor and Hostel World, who tells you all these predetermined agendas, tells you which destinations to visit when you travel. So you have this physical box with a screen displaying messages from this website. This website, people can submit the information on the project website. User can see where exactly the box is, which way it's facing, how the surrounding looks like, and how the weather condition is, and how much battery is left. Final representation of this project is a retelling of the box's journey, including a visualization of the box's history, conversation archive, and a scheduled live events during which we just sent out the box and see how it went. The project is our attempt to divide the physical and virtual part of the conversation and examine how long it will last, and of course, placing a virtual public avatar in a real public. The end of the box was a really happy story. It got lost during the street festival, but maybe we should make a new one. The second point I'm going to discuss about is the opposite of public, private. How and why the idea of privacy has changed alongside the process of data being opened up and distributed. Of course, we remember Mr. Julian Assange and his event, and here is a work basically delivering a parcel to Mr. Julian Assange. An interesting thing about this project is how it sort of unfolds the privateness, the private life, which is forbidden, unseen to the public, to unfold this private level of his life to the public, and in real time, constantly updating. Or this piece by Tim Knowles, who sent out a postal box with a camera and a GPS sensors. It similarly constantly takes picture and tracks the route as it travels around the UK. And this is an interesting project. It was created as a collaboration between the OCR and the Pulitzer Prize-winning researcher Ashkan Soltani. It's called Floodwatch, basically a tool designed to empower individuals to see how advertisers are profiling them. It offers a tool to help you to understand both the volume and the types of ads you are being served during the course of normal browsing, with the goal of increasing awareness of how advertisers track your behaviors and how they build their version of your online identity and target the ads to you as an individual. What's interesting here is that it raises a very interesting question. Do you equal your browser history? How is our identity constructed when we are sort of making use and engage in this internet version of public sphere? So what about the situation in China? I know you guys might be interested. The picture is a snapshot of a game named Public/Private. It was essentially an online survey undertaken by the BMW Guggenheim Lab in Mumbai. I'm going to share with you two little anecdotes maybe about how this public/private balance looks like. These are snapshots of mobile applications one Chinese person might use on his daily basis. So he uses an app to make a reservation for laundry. So someone will come over and picks up his clothes. He uses an app to get a taxi, so he can see literally which drivers are nearby, what kind of cars they drive, what are their license plate numbers, and what time the selected driver will arrive. He uses another app to arrange car washes. A little service car will drive up to his place, and the worker will jump off the car and washes his car, and he will take a picture so that the user knows the car is clean, etc., etc. After the service is finished, the user uses a social media app called WeChat to pay the bill. So Chinese people, I think, are pretty much dependent on applications like this. There are also countless startup companies inventing new fashions of convenient life. What the usage of this app lead to is also a large shared sort of source of previously private information. Where you live, what time do you go to work. The social media also knows to push advertisement based on every user's transaction history, because you are essentially using a social media app to pay. So if you get a BMW ad, it means you're rich, or at least the social media thinks so. I got a Coca-Cola, it's not a good sign. Do we really give ready consent for all these applications to use our information? I don't necessarily think so. But the situation in China really puts this dilemma between public and privacy onto the foreground. Will you contribute your personal info in exchange for a much, much more convenient way of life? Furthermore, these activities are also altering what the definition of private might be. For example, I think to many people today, the geolocations are not as private as before. Surveillance is a series of works that Sid and I developed reflecting to the subject of privacy and surveillance. In this piece, the fish are tracked in real time, and these three labels on the screen are respectively the speed they are moving, the total distance they have swum since the beginning of the program, and the real-time news from either BBC or the Chinese news channels. So there is a little metaphor here that as the fish serve the water, it's pretty much the same as we surf the internet. We talk about information we see, we discuss about it, but in the same time, our information is also tracked. The last point I'm gonna talk about is the idea of a living archive. Here you see this is a little commercial of a product which basically takes picture of your life 24 hours a day. It's a crazy idea. The Microsoft research project named My Life Bits is a lifetime store of literally everything. It is a fulfillment of Vannevar Bush's 1945 Memex vision, including full text search, text and audio annotations, and hyperlinks. Gordon Bell and Jean Gamel outlined an enthusiastic view of how a future in which technology enables total recall of our lives through total capture of personally relevant information. So this kind of obsessive compulsory storage of everything is also become one of the realities of today. The Microsoft project actually brought about a horrifying idea as we are documenting every happening in real time. What if archive does not mean the past anymore? As all the personal information is stored not with us, but only using this metaphorical and cliche word cloud, does it even keep its relevancy to ourselves at all? Or does relevancy even matter? Is the cloud the latest version of public sphere? And of course, who owns it? This is actually one of my favorite pieces. It's called A Listening Post. It's an artwork by Mark Hampson and Ben Rubin that grabs text fragments in real time from thousands of unrestricted websites, chat rooms, bulletin boards, and other public forums. The text here are read or sung by a voice synthesizer and simultaneously displayed across a suspended grid of more than 200 small electronic screens. Archiving isn't just a store and review process anymore. It has become a live event. Our online activities are all captured, stored, structured, and represented in pretty much the same time, which means we are all walking archives in a way. Aside from personnels, official institutions also open accesses to the databases, hoping to revitalize the archives and put them in the context of today. This is a project Sid and I did for the CCAA, which in short for China Contemporary Art Award. The piece was projected onto a 50-meter long corridor in Shanghai Power Station of Art. While you see here where the physical corridor links the exhibition spaces, the piece sort of enlarges the central linking area into a virtual three-dimensional space where visitors can walk into and sort of have this conversation with the archive. The archive is simultaneously components of visual forms and representational information addressing analytical aspects. So the piece, there are two layers here. It sort of visualizes the archive in different logic structures, but it also absorbs the visitor's on-site responses to the exhibited artworks. So you can scan a QR code and you can comment on the artwork, and your comment will sort of fly into the channel, fly into the piece, and be juxtaposed beside the historical comments that this very artwork received in history. So we can try, by doing this, we're trying to examine how the responses that the very same piece received today and how it differs from history. And the piece we hope that serves as a potential method to bring archives to life organically in an exhibition or museum setting, and sort of dissolving moments in situ into visual representation and growing with the time flow of the exhibition. Here is another side of the work, which essentially broadcast in real time what's happening in the venue. Which work is being commented right now, what is the comment, which work received most comment, and which received the least. So it sort of accumulates throughout the duration of the show. And I guess that's all. Thanks for listening. Here's my email, and in case anyone is curious about any bits of my talk, thanks again.